So I was chilling last year watching the new Tomb Raider animated show on Netflix, which is a good show by the way, you should check it out. Thank you Netflix for somehow not missing when it comes to adapting video games into animated shows. And while I was enjoying myself some Lara Croft, it dwelled on me that I actually never played the most recent Tomb Raider Trilogy. I played some of the classics which I cannot pinpoint exactly as those are very distant memories, but I have never decided to try the reboot. So I thought this was the perfect chance to go back and see what's up with them. The only problem being is that recently I started this YouTube journey that I want to focus all the resources I have left after life does its thing. And this thought almost made me spiral, as I love making videos and see the response to them, but I am also a gamer, and like every gamer I have a shameful backlog staring at me, making me feel bad. Therefore, instead of forcing myself to choose one option and face the anxiety of not choosing the other one, I decided to combine both. Why don't I cross names out of my backlog while also being productive and steadily grow my channel? And this is how we got here. These are my Backlog Chronicles, a series where I combine my first experience playing something as well as a mild critique for the game itself. I decided to make this intro to give some context and shed some light on my thought process lately. I am constantly adapting to this new passion and I want to try as many things as I can without fearing the outcome. I don't want to box my content into one particular category, and I don't want to sacrifice the passion for gaming that got me here in the first place. I obviously want to create meaningful content about interesting stuff that I'm passionate about, and also about new things coming out that we can experience together at the same time and share opinions. But I also want to go back and enjoy things that I might have missed, sharing my outdated perspective. If you rock with this, please feel free to let me know, as well as any other type of constructive criticism. I will talk more about the future of this series and also the plan I have for this channel at the end of the video, so I don't delay this even further. So stick with me for a bit until we get there. Feel free to subscribe in the meantime if you want to see more of me for whatever reason, and without further ado, this was my first time with the Tomb Raider Trilogy. So Tomb Raider starts in a total fucking panic as the ship Lara is on gets destroyed and she falls in the water, almost drowning until she washes up ashore. It's raining, people are screaming, and I'm already overstimulated as shit until someone knocks out Lara, which is what I needed, to be fair. She wakes up in a cave, dangling upside down in a cocoon. Then Lara frees herself by purposely catching on fire, so she falls, impaling herself in a metal rod, the Joel way. This is a brilliant setup to remind people the first rule when it comes to explorers. They are fucking immortal. Through dead people, hella candles, Lara makes her way through a bunch of debris, and that's not how fire works. But hey, I'm playing a video game after all. She bombs her way out of the cave, killing a creepy dude in the process, and we get the first running set piece where everything around us comes crashing down, reminding people the second rule when it comes to explorers. They're the luckiest cunts alive. Remember QTEs? That's a pretty sick introduction if you ask me, and here is when I noticed one aspect that is going to be a core part of the entire trilogy. These games are gorgeous. The graphics somehow hold up to this day and the sceneries are breathtaking. Lara continues to parkour her recently impaled ass that she never gets medical treatment for, until she stops to make a fire so she doesn't freeze to death. We then get a found footage flashback with all the characters embarked on this expedition, so now we obviously expect for these characters to die in the future. They are searching for the lost kingdom of Yamatai and Queen Himiko when Lara makes the dumb decision to traverse treacherous waters that got them in the situation in the first place. Ridden with guilt, she ventures into the wild, finds a bow, and I hunt for some deer. Here I was thinking about what type of game is this going to be, as it just introduced the survival mechanics, and I'm really enjoying these aspects, hoping that the game fully embraces them and goes into that direction. I also take a look at the skill options presented to me, and although I appreciate their addition to the game, they're not that interesting. Lara manages to contact her crew, and following some spooky music, she finds a makeshift pry-axe. She then finally reunites with a girl from the crew, Sam, that hangs out with a totally not suspicious dude, Matthias, and yeah, they both disappear after Lara passes out from exhaustion. As if the metal rod wasn't enough damage, she gets trapped in a bear trap and I have to fight off some wolves. She then gets reunited with the remaining crew and they split up to cover more ground to find Sam and Roth. Lara gets stuck with annoying ass Dr. Whitman, and whilst I'm searching for parts to upgrade my axe in this open area, I encounter an optional tomb. And these tombs are actually the best parts of these games. Who would have thought that the best part of Tomb Raider was actually raiding tombs? They are really well designed and break up the pacing of the main story nicely, focusing on creative puzzles most of the time. The bad part is actually the reward, as we only get XP for now. Back to the main story, these two get ambushed by some other suspicious dudes, and Dr. Bitchman pussies out and just surrenders the gun when these guys are armed with bows. Here we meet the obvious antagonist of the game because he speaks Russian, and wait a minute, never mind, he's dead, what the fuck? Well, that was unexpected. Lara gets all the emotions out after killing a person for the first time, so she doesn't have to do it anymore after she goes through 1,000 men throughout the trilogy. Love me some ludonarrative dissonance. After this, the game finally becomes the action shooter I was hoping it wasn't going to be, as we already have Uncharted and the game doesn't go all in on this aspect either. Side note, I will be mentioning Uncharted a couple of times during this video, as that stands as the GOAT when it comes to Indiana Jones type video games, and it represents the baseline of the genre. Then I start asking myself, if Tomb Raider is not a survival game and also not necessarily a full action shooter game, what type of game is it? The answer finally came to me after I looked at this screen. Tomb Raider is a collectathon. Lara Croft is Banjo-Kazooie. I mean, you would think Ubisoft made this game. If only these were interesting things to find, but they're not, and I'm not about to waste my time 100%ing the game. After this fact clicked with me, the game crashed as well. Anyway, I climb my way up these rocks and find Roth fighting wolves. He passes out from the shock, so we have to grab some medicine from the wolves then. I shoot a chicken, then I kill a wolf and return to Roth with the stolen medicine. Then I figure out why this Roth guy sounds so familiar.
Where does a young lady like you learn to do a thing like that?
Because he's fucking Brynjolf from Skyrim. Only this time he doesn't induct me in the Thieves Guild, he inducts me into the Explorers Guild by giving me an axe I can climb rock walls with. After more tombs, more enemies and more found footage of most likely dead people, I find myself in a World War II bunker which I blow up and get a new gun. This is when I'm reminded about the third important rule when it comes to explorers. They are all fucking Rambo, because Lara just mows through all these dudes with no effort whatsoever. And she kills a lot of people climbing up this tower. This section also brings me back to that Uncharted clip.
Nice view.
Men.
No, I was talking about the mountains. Really.
So Lara manages to contact a nearby plane, however she sent all these poor pilots to their doom as the island is somehow protected by a spirit that doesn't want anyone to leave and unleashes a ghost storm, making the plane crash, and we get another sick sequence of trying to outrun the debris from the plane. Apparently, one pilot managed to jump out, but he still manages to meet an unfortunate end as Lara fails to save him from these bad guys that I still have no idea who they are. I get a new tool with a rope arrow, meet Roth and discover that the other pilot is alive as well, so guilt-driven Lara decides to go try and save at least one pilot. Now this whole area is really fun to traverse, and I think this type of location really fits this type of game the best, as the openness elevates a rather basic third-person shooter formula. Anyway, after raiding more tombs, I follow the pilot's trail to this temple where I'm ambushed by the creepy guy from earlier, Matthias. However, these guys also get ambushed by what appear to be samurai, which are referred as Oni. Lara gets captured again, only this time she's not upside down. However, she's surrounded by a large amount of dead bodies and the pilot is amongst them. Rest in peace, my dude. So I sneak out, find a trench shotgun and proceed to shoot my way through to Himiko. Yeah, we're not even halfway through the game and Lara straight up finds what she set out to find. Good way for the game to symbolize that it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And also tombs.
I hate tombs.
Bitch, I think the fuck not. Whilst I'm trying to get this fucking bell down in order to escape, I keep asking myself, why the fuck these guys keep coming at me with machetes and bows while I have a fucking shotgun. Well, I guess that's their problem. Me personally, I get out, then find out over the radio that Sam got captured, so the next goal becomes rescuing her. Now this is the moment that I start to question Lara's survivability in spite of the first rule of explorers, because after shooting her way down the mountain, she falls into the river, goes swimming until she hits a plane, she falls out of that plane after conveniently finding a working parachute, and glides her way down through trees until the old-ass parachute finally gives in and she hits the ground so hard I feel it through the screen. No wonder the next segment is Lara barely holding on, trying to find a way to heal her wounds. The game finally acknowledged the damage. Remember the metal pole from the beginning and the bear trap? Don't worry, she's still Lara Croft because she manages to send more dudes to hell even if she's so fucked up. After that, she finally manages to get a hold of some medical supplies and patches herself up in a painful fashion by hitting up an arrow to close up her wounds. I have to commend the voice actress because the pain in her screams and cries is so believable and well voice acted that they make me like this version of Lara even more, and I want to take a second to talk more about just that. I really like this rebooted portrayal of Lara. She feels more human than her previous iterations despite being kinda invincible and unstoppable ironically. Both mental and physical hardships ground herself so that the player can empathize more with her, and her new design draws attention to these aspects rather than sexualizing her like in the past. Look, I'm not saying that big tits are inherently sexual, but we all know how we viewed Lara back then. I only wish that the gameplay would have focused on the survival aspect, as this would have made Lara a true underdog that can utilize her knowledge and skills to overcome a dangerous environment and defeat her enemies. However, we did not get that here, and she's a total killing machine despite acting like a vulnerable girl. This segment really made the combat stand out for me because even if it's generic and not difficult, I found it to be fun, although that statement is easily influenced by the combat arena. Because again, open space arena, really fluid, really good. Close quarters, cover to cover, not so much fun. But hey, optional tombs still hit despite the lack of reward. Going back to the main story, after a stand your ground segment, Grim shows up captured, and although the enemy has the upper hand, he still manages to take them out before sacrificing himself to save Lara. Rest in peace, you Scottish legend. The bright side of the situation is that now I have Roth covering my ass whilst I try to get across this bridge to get to Sam. This is when I'm shifting my suspicion from Lara's luck being her saving grace to the intelligence of these goons, as one of them sees Lara on the edge of a bridge, and instead of just pushing the bitch, he grabs her for whatever reason and gets the proper response to this thought process from Roth, putting one between his eyes. After this intense section, I finally get to Sam and also find out what's the entire deal with these dumb bastards that are trying to kill me. They appear to form some sort of cult that believes Sam is the key to free their queen and themselves at the same time. Luckily for them, Lara is in cutscene mode and cannot go on a killing spree and gets captured immediately.
This is for Vladimir, outsider!
I don't even know who the fuck Vladimir is. Luckily for Sam though, the fire gets extinguished by whatever paranormal force as she becomes the chosen one. Lara finally escapes as she jumps in a pool full of blood, recreating that scene from The Descent. The next objective is to get out of jail, and I managed to do that successfully while also liberating the rest of my crew that has also been captured. In this process, Lara manages to blow everything up, creating a chain reaction so severe that the entire area becomes a run for your life section as everything is burning and falling apart. On the way up, Lara meets up with Dr. Bitchman, and suspiciously, this motherfucker who was captured by cultists is in perfect condition and stays behind. After that, Lara finally managed to save Sam from the cultist's leader, however, they get separated. New armor goon gets introduced, I defeat him, shoot my way out of the compound with the recently discovered grenade launcher, and I run for my life to catch up with Roth, who is waiting for me in a helicopter. This dumbass pilot cannot understand the concept of a supernatural storm that doesn't allow them to leave, so he gets the whole helicopter crashing down. And this leads to the saddest moment of the story as Roth saves Lara and immediately sacrifices himself in order to protect her from a thrown axe. Rest in peace, Brynjolf, you will be missed. Nah, but for real, Wrath is probably the only character that you actually care about in this game, as he is the only guy with a fleshed out personality where the other characters are pretty monotone. With Wrath dead and Sam saved, the new objective finally focuses on getting the fuck out of the island. So I shoot my way through the forest until I arrive back at the open area from before to embark on a foggy elevator ride that ends abruptly, so I try to solve this problem by descending manually, only to end up on a platform which gets swarmed with cultists. Luckily for me, some cunt decides to shoot the whole thing down, making the process of getting down much more easier. One side note I have to make here is that the developers really did Lara dirty by animating these brutal ass deaths. For real, she gets demolished in this trilogy. Moving forward, I finally arrive on the coast to meet up with the rest of the crew, and I have to state this fact again, this game is truly beautiful.
I don't know. What do you think?
Shut up, Kenny. I go to find some thingy that would help us fix the boat. I bring it back and realize that Alex, the guy with the glasses, is missing, so I obviously have to go look for him. At the same time, Dr. Bitchman shows up out of nowhere, and at this time I'm starting to get sick that nobody minds this guy's suspicious aura. On my search for Alex, I stop to do a little tomb on the side, go on a massive killing streak, then arrive on a stranded ship. This is where I brutally murder a giant. I kinda love that this type of enemy only shows up once, so I don't get the impression that there is a small population of giant cultists roaming around, as the trope of reusing brutes is popular amongst other games, Uncharted included. So surprisingly, Tomb Raider does something better than Uncharted. Exploring the ship, I finally find Alex, but guess what? He's stuck, therefore he has to fall in line with the rest of the characters and sacrifices himself in order to save Lara, but hey, at least he got a kiss on the cheek. Rest in peace, Alex, I barely knew you, but you had a cool shirt. You indeed had a blast of an exit, pun intended. Making my way out of the sinking ship, I managed to return to my crew and immediately leave again to try and figure out what's the secret behind the storm. This gets me into another bunker after I crash an elevator in order to access it that is also connected to some old ruins. Here, Lara finds the reason behind the supernatural storm on a note that she got from a dead samurai. Apparently, Himiko's soul is still alive, however it is trapped inside her dead body causing the storm, therefore in order to leave the island, I would need to destroy her body. After finding out this information, the whole place gets swarmed with cultists, so I kill them and quickly go back to the group only to find out that they were swarmed as well, and Bitchman took Sam to help the cult with their ritual. Now who could have guessed that was going to happen? Not me. Luckily for me, Sam should be in the same place with Himiko, so that would kill two birds with one stone. So I was on my way. And I got to Sam and Matthias just in time to see Bitchman completely destroying any hope for me to kill him personally, as his dumbass gets killed by the ghost samurai from earlier because he thought he was that guy that can reason with fucking ghouls. I can only admire the consistency of this character for being the most annoying piece of shit throughout the entire story. Anyway, making my way to the temple, I have my first face-to-face encounter with the Storm Guard, who are the undead protectors of Queen Himiko, and here I was emphasizing the third rule of explorers, as I literally start killing undead samurais. Maybe their weakness was fucking bullets all this time. After that, I sneak past the rest of the Storm Guard as if I didn't make a completely joke out of them earlier, until I get discovered and I have to make a run for it. Taking a quick break to upgrade my weapons further as I sense the big fight coming up, I have to talk a bit more about the progression in Tomb Raider. It's pretty safe and simple as I mentioned with the skills, however the same thing can be said about the weapons upgrades. You can improve all the standard components such as the damage and the fire rate, but when a headshot is a one-shot kill, anything else really becomes irrelevant. So even though I appreciate how exploration is tied with the progression by finding weapon parts and XP, at the end of the day, it doesn't make that much of a difference. I held that thought hoping that the future entries in the series would solve this issue. Finishing my break, I stumble into that big confrontation I sensed earlier, however it's still kind of unbalanced throwing guys with swords and bows against fucking shotguns and assault rifles. Therefore, I am able to go full Rambo and dispatch of them easily. After the wind clears my way, I do a cute puzzle, then find out that the bitch Himiko is actually evil and has been living all this time through the ritual of transferring a soul to her, and now Sam is on her radar. Evil Storm, evil Queen, am I right? My game couldn't handle this information either, so it crashed again. So I boot up the game and I find myself on the final stretch as I get to Matthias for him to give me a lecture about ludonarrative dissonance and the amount of people I've killed. What comes next is the climactic traversal section, followed by the final fight of the game, only it is not against Matthias, it's against multiple waves of enemies. It was here that I got stumped by a question, and I hope you can help me with the answer in the comments. If the cultists want to resurrect the queen, and the Oni are protecting their queen, why the fuck are they fighting each other? Are the samurais too undead to comprehend resurrection, or are against it? Anyway, the big bad standing in our way to stop Matthias is actually one of these undead cunts. However, he's a big boy, so it looks like each team had one. I take him down with my climbing axe and proceed to stop Matthias, where the sickest moment of the entire trilogy occurs when Lara steals Matthias' pistol and uses it as well as her pistol to pay homage to the iconic dual pistol wielding Lara Croft that we all know and love. I cannot lie, this was sick as shit. And with that semi-saved, we get off the island and Tomb Raider, the first game of the trilogy, is done. As if it wasn't that obvious from Lara's raw reactions throughout the story, as well as her original statement from the beginning about searching for adventure, this final scene of Lara shows her stating that she's not going home, and the most subtle text pops on the screen reading that a survivor is born, cementing this whole game as Lara Croft's origin story. Not gonna lie, when I went into this game, I fully expected for it to be the Spider-Man Homecoming approach, where we don't waste time on telling the entire origin of the character and we focus on the adventure. And this is kind of what happened, but also not. We don't learn shit about Lara's family or history, but we do see Lara's origin as an explorer. And I kinda fuck with this approach. I also fuck with the traversal, the graphics, the exploration, and the tomb raiding aspect of Tomb Raider. The shooting works as intended and can be fun depending on the context, but it doesn't blow me out of the water. I don't like how the game is structured as a collectathon, and I know everything is optional, but if you have cool exploration, why not use it to its fullest potential and fill the world with interesting things to discover that can actually be useful? The same uninteresting aspect can be said about the character progression and the weapon system. However, the biggest sin of the game is how underutilized the survival mechanics actually are. I didn't need to stop my progression in the main story to hunt for different animals in order to upgrade my gear or search for resources so I can be prepared for the next conflict, and I kinda wished I had to. I wanted to feel like that survivor that adapts to my environment and use it for its advantages to overcome all the obstacles. However, I got a fun action adventure where Lara shoots hella people. Like, bro, your reboot is marketed with Lara holding a bow, just go for that aesthetic and don't give her a gun again. And I guess I'm fine with that, because at the end of the day, I had a good time, and I think that's all that matters. There is some wasted potential here, don't get me wrong, but hey, there are 2 more games in the trilogy that can rectify these problems. Speaking of more games in the trilogy, so it looks like Rise of the Tomb Raider took the Uncharted 2 approach of moving the sequel's location to snowy landscapes after the initial island setting. I'm not mad, I think it's a good change of scenery. Also a good change of scenery is Jonah's redesign. It appears that both of them are looking for another lost city, and this introduction perfectly builds up the roughness of the setting with harsh weather conditions and difficult terrain to traverse. Everything gets even more fucked when Lara is separated from Jonah and has to outrun an avalanche that literally throws her off the mountain. This is how the game subtly reminds you about the rules of Explorer, as you might have forgotten about them since the last game. I didn't, cause I played all of these back to back, but still. Immediately after, there is a flashback from 2 weeks ago, which basically sets up this game's story and thematic, as Rise of the Tomb Raider moves the adventure to personal motives regarding Lara as she follows in her father's footsteps. If the first game sets her up as an explorer, she's now ready for the adventure most important to her. Cause you know, Rise of the Tomb Raider, it's in the name. Lara meets up with Anna, who is apparently her father's ex, and through their conversation, the player, which is me, gets informed that Lara is after the secret of immortality, which her father was close to discovering before he died. In this conversation, I also observed the self-destruction motive that the narrative is going to focus on regarding Lara, as her obsession to her father and her inability to move on will lead her on a path that can cause the same amount of damage that her father also inflicted on the people close to him, such as Lara. For now, it looks like the narrative aspect of the game leveled up significantly, hoping the same thing can reflect on the other elements of the game. And it appears I got a good streak going, as the next improved aspect is the visuals, because look at how gorgeous this game looks. I told you this aspect was going to be a core part of the trilogy. I'm still in the flashback, however Lara apparently went to Syria to check some tomb of a prophet, and also it appears that some bad guys are after the same thing, as their helicopter derails Lara transport. I check out some ruins, learn a little bit of Greek because learning languages is now somewhat of a mechanic, then my gorgeous counter goes up. So some scorpions and some traps later, I make it inside a tomb, only guess what, the tomb is empty. It's about the tomb raiding, guys, not what's in the tombs. Suddenly the bad guys show up, who are called Trinity, and they're basically like the Illuminati, I think, or the Templars from Assassin's Creed, you know, secret society with the goal of control. Lara bamboozles them by detonating their explosives, and a running sequence commences as the entire place starts collapsing. Lara gets out, then returns to Croft Manor, and Jonah shows up. She figures out that the artifact she was searching for is actually in Siberia, but Jonah confronts her about her obsession to find said artifact because it's pushing her on the same destructive direction her father went on. Don't worry about this character arc developing further, because the story fucks up this underlining motif immediately by Trinity sending a dumbass assassin that fails to kill Lara, and conveniently for him, she forgets that she's a mass murderer at this point, so she doesn't straight up shoot him and he manages to get away with her notes. So now Lara is basically forced to go after this treasure, so the evil secret society doesn't get its hands on immortality. So long, inner conflict of contradicting desires, welcome back good guy versus bad guy formula. With this, the flashback is over and I'm thrown back in the Siberian tundra. I have to gather supplies in order to build a fire, and that's when I get introduced to the new skill tree. It's more in depth, I will give them that, and I think it's a substantial improvement. The weapons upgrade system appears to be the same though, and the most important thing I discover in this open area is how the survival mechanics have evolved. They're kind of better, as you can craft arrows now and need herbs to heal yourself in combat. Hunting is still the same, as you need the same materials to upgrade your gear though. So overall, everything moved a bit in the right direction. No big commitments have been made, which is a shame, but I guess that's the direction they wanted to take the series in, with a balanced diet containing both action and survival. So I hunt me some rabbit and some deer, then I'm suddenly dropped in the Revenant and I'm face to face with a fucking bear, as the rules of explorers favor Lara and she's able to survive this encounter. There are more flashbacks with Daddy Croft after this, and my nap time is interrupted by Trinity dudes chasing after a random woman, so it's time to start killing them, and I proceed to do just that in a stealth manner. Those guys were just my mere appetizer, so for the main course I was feeling something more gamey, so I decided on having bear, which I destroyed with my poisonous arrows. Making my way past the bear, I venture into an ice cave, and I have the pleasure of discovering that the optional tombs are still the best part of these games, and even better now. Now I get new perks as a reward, which is amazing. That's what I'm talking about, substantial improvement. Outside of the cave, I meet with a random woman from before, and Lara tries to convince her that they're on the same side, despite the fact that both Lara and Trinity are after the same thing. So mysterious woman threatens to kill Lara and vanishes. After dispatching more Trinity guys and remembering that fire works differently in this universe, I get my hands on my first gun and dispatch more enemies and rabbits. On my way to the enemy's outpost, I encounter this fella that just gave me a side mission. Yeah, side quests are apparently part of this game now, and I fuck with that idea, especially after the reward for completing it is a lockpick, a new tool that I can use to unlock more stuff while exploring. This approach, having a big open area like this one that contains multiple ways of traversal, optional tombs and side quests, is such a great addition to the series and really complements this type of gameplay really well. There are also shops now where you can buy cool shit with gold you find exploring, but wait a minute, why the fuck do I have to buy the rope ascender when that was available for me for free in the first game? Come on, man. Anyway, going back to the main story, after making my way inside enemy territory, Lara immediately gets captured. When she wakes up and sees Anna tied to a chair in front of her, I immediately thought this bitch is for sure with Trinity, and not even 3 minutes later, I get the confirmation that I'm actually right. And Anna straight up sends Lara to the gulag, where she meets a mysterious man. I immediately start executing my escape plan, free the mysterious man whose name is Jacob because he appears to know more about the artifact I'm looking for. I then confront the entire fucking base head on as I figured out that stealth is really optional in these games. When you have Lara that's basically a one-woman army, what's the point of taking your time and kill everyone one by one when you can just kill them all at once? More exposition drops while escaping the prison, and I find out that Anna and Constantine, which is the main Trinity bad guy, are actually siblings. I also have two other big realizations in this place when I grab the AK from this guard and start a full action sequence. The first one is that the game's combat is split into sections where stealth is optional, like I said, which are superior, and segments like these where the game is purely Uncharted but with a less refined combat system. The second realization is, wait, I'm actually repeating the same progression from the first game. I'm getting back all the weapons I already had in the same order. And I know it doesn't make sense for Lara to pack an artillery for her trip to Siberia, but still, can I have a little bit more variety in the weapons at least? Or a different progression other than guns? But hey, you can craft grenades now that you can use on these armored goons. After Lara and Jacob escape the gulag, I witness how the first rule of explorers is dragged to its limits as this girl throws herself in a frozen lake with not even a coat on, then proceeds to outrun an attack helicopter, and she falls in the lake again, passing out. Like, cool, Jacob dragged her out, sure, but is hypothermia not a thing in this universe? She's still wearing the same drenched clothes. How powerful can adrenaline be that you're fine after all of this? The elements don't have shit on Lara at this point. I mean, she's British, so she's used to terrible weather. While talking to Jacob, Lara speaks about how her goal is still finding the artifact to study it and understand it, just like her father. And again, the moral conflict doesn't really work when the alternative is just letting the fucking Illuminati win. That's when I decided I needed a break from the main story and do some side shit instead, and that's when I rescued Chloe from Life is Strange. Her name is Nadia, they just have the same voice actor, shout out Ashley Birch. She asked me to look for her grandfather in the Wicked Vale as he went there to take revenge on Baba Yaga for killing his wife. On the way there, I get jump scared by a snow leopard and proceed to unload a full magazine in it. After finally making my way to the Wicked Vale, I inhale some toxic fumes that make me trip balls and see visions of Daddy Croft, and also Baba Yaga herself shows up and I have to fight some trippy wolves until I manage to escape her. Apparently she weaponized the pollen in the area to use it as a biochemical weapon to induce hallucinations, so she's basically Scarecrow. And this is when I figured out that this is too complex for just a side quest, so am I doing the DLC right now? I go back to grab some plants to use them to create an antidote, and whilst I was in the area I decided to continue the main story and I climbed the mining facility, I believe, because soon after that I ended up in a mine. This is where I get separated from Jacob after the mine starts falling apart, and then I realized that
This is no mine. It's a tomb.
a tomb waiting to be raided by the Tomb Raider. Actually, I don't waste much time here as I proceed to immediately destroy everything trying to open a door. I then emerge on the other side and reunite with the mysterious woman from before, who just so happens to be Jacob's daughter, so everyone is friendly now. Remembering I got distracted and didn't finish the DLC, I go back to the Wicked Vale, and this time the antidote helps me not to trip balls again, so I can see the walking house in a less spectacular shape. I reunite with Chloe, Nadia, and together we find her grandfather alive, and while she stays behind to take care of him, I go to confront Baba Yaga. There is a problem though, as the hag makes me drop the antidote, so I have to do the entire boss fight high out of my fucking mind. I finally end the trip by defeating Baba Yaga just to find out she's actually Nadia's grandmother who was presumed to be dead. Turns out everything was just a big old misunderstanding, and I help reunite this fucked up family, so happy endings for everyone. Going back to the main story, I take my time to admire this settlement of people, and I can't help but think about how cool it would have been if I could help these people become stronger for the eventual conflict with Trinity, so that all side missions and optional content can be tied to the main story in order to add more incentive to go out there and explore, because right now I kinda don't feel like it. I proceed to light the evacuation beacon, and then immediately after that the Trinity invasion starts and these poor villagers get slaughtered. I finally unlocked the shotgun because, as I mentioned, it's so fun when you repeat the same progression 2 games in a row and blast my way through Trinity, including a flamethrower guy. After all the carnage stops, Jacob informs me about the Atlas, which is a map that can direct me to where the artifact is located, so finding the Atlas becomes my main objective. I make my way to another village where the Atlas is supposed to be located, and find the local population slaughtered as well by Trinity. I go on a killing spree and kill a lot of Trinity, and I mean a lot of Trinity. I rescue Jacob's sister, kill even more Trinity, then meet up with Jacob, who tells me that I cannot feel the emptiness inside me. Like, bro, I'm trying to save your people from the bad guys and stop them from ruling the world. What the fuck are you on about? Luckily, Sophia sees it my way and gives me a grappling hook which I can use to get to the Atlas. This grappling hook is probably the buggiest piece of shit in the entire game. Like, it works, don't get me wrong, but it looks like it shouldn't. It's really funny. I continue my Trinity killing spree, then get jump scared by a lynx, who I mercilessly kill as well. Making my way up the church, I finally come face to face again with Anna, when Lara has the most original idea and blows everything up around her again, causing both of them to get tangled and fall. Aw man, why can't I shoot the bitch? Also, how strong is Anna or that wooden beam that they can support the weight of Lara and also 2 generators? After shooting the generators, Lara is done with Anna's bullshit because she straight up shoots her, then proceeds to go further down, where she encountered bare Trinity burned to a crisp. It was at this point where I said that if the developers had the balls of putting an actual dragon in the game, this would bump the game's score to a 10 out of 10. But no, we cannot have fun and it's just Greek fire. And I thought Greek fire was just Greek music, SMH. Not even a minute later and I already find the Atlas and get ambushed by more Trinity. I manage to swim away and get my hands on a rebreather, allowing me to breathe underwater. Then Lara does what Lara does best and permanently damages priceless ancient architecture, and in response she gets welcomed by the ancient population of this area with a warm volley of arrows. Nothing that a little bit of running can't handle, and like that I make my way back to Jacob, where Jonah shows up. Please don't tell me he got dragged here for emotional tension regarding Lara learning her quote-unquote lesson. Anyway, Lara uses the Atlas to figure out the locations of the divine source, and then Jacob informs me that he already knew the location? Are you fucking kidding me? So you wasted all this time I spent searching for the Atlas when you could have told me where the divine source was, so we can have a fucking head start on Trinity and save your people quicker. Jacob, you smug motherfucker. Then Trinity shows up and steals the Atlas and also captures Jonah to create emotional tension regarding Lara learning her quote-unquote lesson. Oh, for fuck's sake. Now I have to go back to the Gulag and save Jonah, and on the way there I make a quick stop to get back the Atlas. When I get to Jonah, he is being interrogated by Constantine, and as soon as he sees Lara, he gains the strength to break free, but pushes out at the last second and doesn't shoot Constantine, forcing Lara to watch him get stabbed. Only after that Lara finally is able to break into the room. Is this the moment Lara learns her lesson of how obsession can hurt the people you love? Probably not, because as soon as they get Jonah back to Jacob, he heals him, and then Lara figures out that Jacob is actually the deathless prophet from the legend. The archers from before are actually his army that he granted eternal life using the divine source, and they destroyed the city in order to keep the power for themselves. Power is bad, do you get it? At this point I was speechless. I thought nothing made sense anymore, and there is no reason for me to try and figure out the logic behind anything. From now on I'm taking everything at face value because I don't want to lose my sanity trying to understand what the fuck is going on. I already knew Lara was immortal, but fuck it, Jacob is too. I proceed to my next objective of finding the divine source and head into the mountain, do a cute planetarium puzzle, and let me clarify this now because I don't think I have yet. The puzzles in this game are actually pretty great, even if they are not the most challenging puzzles mechanically or intellectually, they are still a lot of fun, for the most part. Moving on, diving deeper into the mountain, I encounter the Deathless Ones again and have a clearer view on what I have to deal with. Luckily for Lara, she has a good history dealing with undead warriors because she immediately starts rampaging all the Deathless Ones. I want you to really put an emphasis on a Deathless part. Also, did these motherfuckers reuse the same concept of undead warriors 2 games in a row and only change the font? Lara really puts the deathless aspect to the test as she makes her way through them to get to the final part of the city. This is one section of the game I really like. As I mentioned before in the previous game, Tomb Raider's combat segments work best when the area is very open, as the fluidity of the traversal makes the action more dynamic. Therefore, this part where Deathless Ones keep on coming from all directions and you have to move your ass from trebuchet to trebuchet in order to advance further into the city is probably the peak of the action when it comes to the trilogy. Spoiler alert for the third one, I guess. This final section truly blends all the gameplay aspects really well, the combat, the traversal, and the puzzles. To add even more sauce to the whole thing, the final boss actually slaps as well. You have the open combat arena that I keep praising, where waves of enemies keep spawning and the goal is to time and shoot trebuchet projectiles near the helicopter. I had a lot of fun with this one, moving from side to side, killing both Trinity and Deathless Ones after waiting for them to kill each other, and it was really satisfying to time the projectiles until the helicopter went down. Unfortunately, the boss fight doesn't end here. For whatever godforsaken reason, the boss fight becomes a stealth section where you play peekaboo with Constantine around the pillars, because if you actually try to straight up fight him, you stunlock the cunt. However, you can't kill him and he can't do anything to you, so you're forced to play by the stupid rules. Such a shame to ruin the fun on the final stretch of the game. I end his pathetic existence, then proceed to reunite with Anna as she holds the mythical divine source. They have a debate surrounding immortality and how life is precious because it ends and blah blah. Anna's dying and wants to live, so she uses the artifact and nothing happens. Lara then immediately grabs the divine source and breaks it, killing every deathless one, including Jacob, and that's how Lara stops herself from following in her father's footsteps by doing the right thing. Footsteps which become even blurrier as Anna told Lara that another craft doesn't have to die for this. But before she can clarify all the details behind her father's death, she gets assassinated by Trinity in this cliffhanger of an ending, setting up the final entry in the series as Lara's next goal becomes stopping Trinity. Let me start the concluding segment by saying this: Rise of the Tomb Raider is a good game. I had a lot of fun. The gameplay improved in practically every aspect, and even though it didn't go all in on the survival like I wanted, it went into the right direction, giving me more hope that the final entry will finalize the transition. The combat feels even better than the first one, and it's a lot of fun. The exploration is still the best part, and even though I'm now wasting my time searching for all the useless shit to complete the game, the time spent in the optional tombs were a blast as always. The progression is better, besides the guns, and almost all additions feel welcomed here. That being said, I kinda hated the story. The themes clash with each other, the tension is either non-existent or forced as fuck. Everything really becomes nonsensical at one point, and I lost my patience trying to rearrange all the convoluted plot points and plot holes so that the bigger picture is cohesive. Listen, the first game didn't have a masterpiece of a story, but it was serviceable as it was straight to the point and was easy to follow. Rise of the Tomb Raider tries to go the deep and complex route, but I feel it fails at delivering a comprehensive narrative. That's the game's biggest flaw. Other than that, it's great. So if the final game sticks to this trajectory and builds up all the elements even more and just delivers a good ass story, ladies and gentlemen, we might have a classic on our hands. Spoiler alert, it fucking doesn't.
Ay, qué bonito es volar.
So Shadow of the Tomb Raider starts with Lara and Jonah in the middle of some fuckery, and wait a second, who the fuck is that? Bro, that's not Jonah, is he? My guy went through 3 different designs in 3 different games. What was wrong with his design from the previous game that you had to do him like this? Poor guy can't catch a break. Anyway, the moment is cut short by a flashback that gives more context about these guys ending up in this situation. So Lara finds herself exploring a cave, and the first thing I notice is that the traversal got an upgrade, so now I'm kind of excited thinking about what other shit they added. I make my way to some sort of Mayan site, and we learn that these guys are on Trinity's tail as they are searching for something, and if Trinity is searching for something, that's never good. Therefore, it looks like the game is picking up exactly after the last one. A bomb sets off, Lara stops to take some pictures, but Jonah drags her ass out and they both make their way back to a Mexican town where the locals appear to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, and if you don't know what that is, just watch Coco. The second I was presented this setting, I got so hyped as I love Mexican culture and I think it's the perfect change of scenery from the last game's snowy mountains. A second after that, Lara figures out that the thing they're after is actually in Peru, so that means I won't get to spend that much time here, bummer. Another point I have to give Shadow of the Tomb Raider is its attention to detail when it comes to making populated locations really lively. Seeing these people sing and dance, kids playing with fireworks, I feel more immersed into this world. So far, everything seems on the right track, and speaking of track, I start tailing some Trinity guy, and not long after that, I finally get thrown into the Tomb Raider experience as Lara grabs her bow and is ready to fuck shit up. And that's exactly what I do. I stab a guy, then shoot another guy, then I proceed to pick up the same salvage parts and healing plants. And I'm like, oh no, please don't tell me nothing about the survival and the progression changed. Maybe I'm paranoid and everything is fine. Let me not get ahead of myself. Because look at the new traversal additions, those are cool. They can't be the only thing they added. So I make my way to a coastal cave and proceed to get inside. While swimming, I notice Lara doesn't have the rebreather anymore and has to rely on air pockets, so I continue to get worried. Are you telling me she couldn't pack a rebreather considering how useful it was to her during her last adventure? It's not even that big. Now I'm really paranoid. I'm complaining about rebreathers. Maybe this eel will calm me down. After I surface, I end up in an underground temple and I make my way through on a rapid pace where I find a dagger that also appears to be a key. Immediately after, Trinity shows up and I see that they added new stealthy shit. However, knowing what game I'm playing, I straight up ignore stealth and proceed to take them all at once, and yeah, the combat hasn't really changed. Lara gets immediately captured and I'm introduced to this game's antagonist who takes my dagger. He appears to be after some silver box that has the ability to recreate the world. He also informs Lara that by taking the key without having the box, she has just started the apocalypse, and he's immediately proven right as a fucking tsunami hits this poor town. I mean, damn Lara, I already knew you were a mass murderer, but I didn't know you were actually capable of killing innocent people and also children. Lara then reunites with Jonah and they have an argument because Lara wants to go after Trinity to stop them from recreating the world in their vision, and Jonah wants to help the people whose lives were ruined because of Lara. And after Jonah tells Lara everything is not about her, my head starts hurting again. Are we really rehashing the same theme from the last game? And it is also done in the same poor manner? Lara wanted to stop Trinity doing evil shit, and in the process, yeah, she also did some bad shit. That's not obsession or selfishness. And even now, yeah, she doesn't care about the people she killed that much anyway, and focuses on stopping Trinity, but isn't that like the whole point? The narrative still tries to paint Lara in a grey manner with conflicting goals and priorities, but it just doesn't work. I finally circle back to the beginning as the plane Lara and Jonah are on crashes in the jungle due to an unforeseen storm. This is the moment that Shadow of the Tomb Raider had me on the edge of my seat. You have Lara crashing down in a totally hostile environment and she doesn't have her gear. She needs to Bear Grylls this shit and improvise, adapt and overcome the dangers she faces. Just go for the kill game and do the survival aspect of Lara Croft justice. The game is as gorgeous as ever, it just needs that little push to be a classic. To quote the iconic Angry Joe,
You done fucked it up.
Everything is still the same. You gather and hunt for resources, all the same. The upgrade system is all the same. The skill tree looks different but is basically all the same. Nothing was improved, hell, nothing was changed. And yeah, the system wasn't broken that it needed to be changed that badly, but I feel like they wasted a whole lot of potential. Maybe I got my hopes too high, had unrealistic expectations and I'm too dramatic. I don't know, but that's how I feel. To add salt to my injury, Lara then enters Jaguar territory and sees her pilot shredded to pieces, and then proceeds to kill a Jaguar in this scenario, and the other one straight up takes the L and leaves with his dead friend. Like, bro, I know Lara is a badass, but come on. Moving on, I reunite with Jonah and together we progress our way through the jungle. While taking a detour, I took a sigh of relief after finding out that hey, at least the optional tombs are still fire, and hell, they might be better than ever. I think I did a bad thing for a second there having fun, because the next second, the other Jaguar returns to get his get back. And it was here that my believability goes out the window as Lara survives this vicious attack. Like, bro, ain't no fucking way she survives getting mauled by a fucking Jaguar. Are you kidding me? I thought the rules for explorers were more like guidelines, but they appear to be uncontestable facts. Anyway, I proceed to kill the Jaguar, have a heart-to-heart moment with Jonah, then dream about being a kid again. Other than Lara's conflicts of interest I mentioned earlier, it appears that the family trauma is carried over from the second game as well, as Lara dreams about her parents and her dad's apparent suicide. I mean, the narrative falls perfectly in line with the other things being left as they were. But hey, you can now craft outfits that have minor bonuses, so that's a plus, I guess. Going further into the jungle, me and Jonah proceed to take down more Trinity goons, and the game proceeds to give me a pistol and an assault rifle. Oh wow, who would have guessed? At least this time they gave me two guns at once. I swear to God, if they give me a shotgun next, I'm going to lose my mind. We finally make our way to the town nearby, we get accustomed with the locals, and then I discover that side quests are boring as shit. And also, Tomb Raider is now Horizon Zero Dawn with in-game emotionless cutscenes where each person takes their turn to speak. There are also crypts now, which are smaller side tombs that are fine, I guess. Returning to the main story, I see the temple I need to head towards, I proceed to kill more Trinity on the way, then I find a new mechanic added, mud patches. You can cover yourself in mud so enemies won't detect you as fast. Well, I'll be damned, let me completely ignore this and continue blasting my way through enemy encounters, as that still is the most efficient way of dealing with them. Wouldn't it have been cool if the enemies were a lot stronger and you were less equipped, so you would have to resort to stealth and your environment to dispatch them? I guess stealth remains optional after all. Moving on, I head into the temple, do a puzzle and inspect a mural containing more hints about the location of the silver box. On the way, I discover how big of an emphasis this game put on underwater segments with all predators, hiding places and perks related to them. And my question is, why? Why would you focus your attention on the infamous underwater levels? It is what it is, I guess. At least you can hang people from trees now like in Assassin's Creed. Also, something is lurking in the jungle. I'm sorry if I've been complaining too much, let me have a little bit of fun now, because the puzzles in the traversal never fail to make me have fun, and this section does just that. Even better than that, the grappling hook is back and now it works as intended with no glitches. We're eating good for now. After finding the hidden city, Lara also runs into a child, then proceeds to kill a native attacker that is also part of Trinity. What the fuck? More Trinity attackers show up that are killed by more natives. What the fuck is going on? I will tell you what is going on. Lara and Jonah get welcomed by the people of the hidden city of Paititi, people who apparently have to deal with a cult which is led by the Trinity leader, Dr. Dominguez, who promises the citizens unity and salvation, which he intends to bring with the silver box. So we basically get involved in a somewhat of a civil war in a city hidden in the jungles of Peru, and Trinity is also involved. I don't know if it's my short attention span, but it was here I was starting to lose the plot. The city though is gorgeous and it feels lived in, as the same attention to detail I talked about in Mexico is present here. I then go poking around in the city's unexplored areas doing puzzles and shit, and I found the serpent that gets me closer to the silver box, I'm assuming. Me poking around unfortunately causes the little boy to get kidnapped by the cult. I delay my progress in the main story to do some more side quests around the town, but yeah, side quests are still boring, so I quickly go back to the regularly scheduled programming and continue the main story. I go straight into the cult's business and I basically commit native genocide, I think, because I bring an AK-47 to a bow fight and I just unload the hell of bullets into these guys. I managed to rescue the boy, but this appears to be more of a trade as his mother gets captured immediately, so I guess I'll have to go back and rescue her too at some point. For now, I head for the Eye of the Serpent, and damn, these games never fail to impress me with their graphics and stunning vistas. I keep following the path down through water and even more down and even through more water until I end up in an underground spooky place. Somewhere I must have taken the wrong turn because I ended up in an optional tomb, but I'm not complaining because look at this beauty. It was at this moment I had a revelation and realized that I should be doing more side tombs if I have more fun with these than the main story. That being said, my revelation soon came crashing down when I saw this reward for completing the tomb. Then I had another revelation, one a little bit more on the negative side. I figured out why I had barely any inclination to explore the side content. Everything you get from exploration is pretty much useless in the main gameplay loop. All the resources for upgrading your gear are pretty much useless when the combat is that easy, even on harder difficulties which I was playing on all this time. Let's say you even get new perks, guns and tools from the side crypts, tombs and missions. When are these that useful? Don't get me wrong, it's nice to receive something, but nothing makes that big of a difference in the bigger picture. So I'm not incentivized to explore. I know I'm changing genres, but let me show an example for exploration done right. Elden Ring does exploration right, because everything you find might completely change how you play as it is tied to the main gameplay loop. A better weapon might be exactly what you were missing, and that's what Tomb Raider is missing. Substantial benefits from exploration. Everything is decent at best, which is fine if you're into that, but all I keep thinking about while I'm playing is the wasted potential, because the game we could have had could have been generational. I'm still having fun for now, so I don't want to be all negative, but damn, what a shame. Going back on the right track, I continue to delve deeper and find the shotgun. Oh, for fuck's sake. Look, I'm not even going to go there as I've been negative enough already, but this predictability got me fucked up. At least the next section is actually really good because Tomb Raider becomes a horror game as Lara finally comes face to face with the things that were lurking in the jungle, which appear to be some sort of cannibals, but they act more like animals than humans. And they're also shotgun proof as these guys can take shots point blank and still be fine. And the combination of all these elements make me love this segment because the atmosphere is really tense and I don't want to be jump scared and surrounded by these ugly cunts because I know they're strong as fuck. After shooting and puzzling my way through, their leader shows up and they seem to be chill for a split second because after I discover that the box is not here and a sudden earthquake starts destroying the place, they become angry again and I have to run for my life. After I lose them, I grab a hold of some climbing gear that can allow me to climb ceilings. Wait a minute, this was literally the first thing that was introduced in the game and you're reintroducing it to me again, now more than halfway into the game? I didn't even pay attention that I couldn't do that anymore until now. You're actually taking the piss. We're not introducing new shit anymore, we're taking stuff away, then reintroduce them as something new. Anyway, hella climbing commences, and I mean hella climbing commences, until I make my way back to the hidden city. I meet up with Jonah and it's time to break out Unuratu, the mother of the boy that was just captured. The plan is to infiltrate the cult using a disguise. Sounds like that could be fun. So I don't know why I decided to give side missions another chance only to be disappointed yet again because they are so boring. You know what's not boring? Side tombs, baby. This one with the light was hella fun. I also did one with an emphasis on wind that I still don't know if it was DLC or not. Okay, enough with the distractions. I need to finish the story before the story finishes me. I infiltrate the cult's business and witness Unratu basically having a political debate with the Mingis as they disagree on what's the best course of actions to help their people. This is kinda nice because it humanizes the villain a bit. He still pursues control and to remake the world in his vision, but still. I locate where Unratu is being held and proceed to platform my way to her, then I free her, obviously. We then sneak our way towards the exit, witness some sacrifices on the way out, and just when we were close to escaping, Unratu gets shot by the Trinity general. In order to honor her, I proceed to give her some company in the afterlife and kill a lot of cultists. Then I inform the kid about his mother's passing and leave with Jonah in searching for the box. That's when they get ambushed by a helicopter and Jonah dies. Or Lara thinks that anyway, because when this random goon has her cornered, she's like,
Don't try me.
I have the power of God and anime on my side, then turns into evil Lara. I mean, we already knew Lara is going to hell for killing so many people, but the killing has just now made her edgy. Now the next section is exactly what I was campaigning for from the start. Lara loses her gear and the entire segment is purely focused on stealth. You only have your knife, the mud beneath you, and some plants you can hide in, and that's what I fucking need, because everything clicked. I had fun. I'm not even going to complain why Lara doesn't grab a gun from one of these dead guys. Also, ignore the fact that Lara can take hella bullets and can rush the enemy to melee them to death. Why did I have to wait until the end of the game for badass underdog Lara? The enemies also have thermal scanners now, so the mod has even more utility. Like damn, who knew that using everything at your disposal to overcome difficult situations can be fun? This late into the game I'm also introduced to Jaguar Sphere, which makes the enemy berserk and starts shooting his friends. At this point I'm not going to complain anymore about cool shit being added at the end of the game, I'm just going to enjoy them. I make my way to what appears to be an oil refinery and I get a message on my walkie-talkie from the general that informs me that Jonah is dead. But anyone other than Lara can figure out that he's actually not. But don't tell her that because she's in Goku mode right now, climbing a flaming refinery, dodging helicopters and tanks left to right, and after she falls into the water we get more evil Lara. To be honest, that's how I usually see her, knowing everything she's done. Evil Lara then proceeds to blow up the helicopter who deserved this fate because what dumbass flies a helicopter that low and that close to an explosion hazard? After the helicopter crash, Lara crashes as well, just for Jonah to show up to calm her down as she experiences neuron activation, finally figuring out where the silver box actually is. Turns out, Jesus was the answer all along, as they were supposed to be looking for a Christian holy site all this time. So they head towards the nearest church or whatever and proceed to get closer and closer to the box. Lara then proceeds to do the most unspeakable act in the trilogy so far and destroys Jesus. Turns out that they indeed found the right spot because when they venture in a secret underground lair filled with crosses and skeletons and religious imagery, they also find the silver fucking box. Does anyone know what comes next? If you guess that Trinity shows up and gets the upper hand, you're correct. Lara gives Dominguez the box because she learned her lesson that people are more important than saving the world. The theme still doesn't fucking work. Then Dominguez informs her that her father didn't commit suicide, he actually had him killed. So now everything is personal. Jonah manages to grab the box and run away, and whilst I had my fun in the previous stealth sections, it appears that Lara got her guns back, so it's time to kill me some Trinity. Unfortunately, it was this section that ruined combat for me as it confirmed the problems I always suspected. The AI is fucking garbage and it's the reason why these games are so easy. The soldiers can't aim for shit and barely use cover and just stand there waiting to be shot in the head. And this aspect really takes the fun out of the action sequences. Even worse than that is I feel like the combat has gotten worse somehow since the first game in the trilogy. Everything feels stiffer now, aiming feels rigid, and the flow of the combat is not as fluid as I remember it being in the first game. Maybe I'm crazy, but I remember having much more fun shooting dudes, and now I find it kinda tedious. Maybe it's that or the gameplay loop got old really quick, but I don't care which one is it because it's a problem either way. More bad news incoming as Trinity got their hands on the box and can now start the process of rebuilding the world. But I don't need to worry about that just now as water starts pouring into the town and I have to make a run for it as I witness more collateral damage being inflicted on innocent people. After I escape, I return to Paititi and get ready for the final confrontation with Trinity. The kid who is now the leader of the rebellion gathers his troops and then I'm making my way underground to another hidden city. This is where I reunite with the leader of the cannibal freaks from before and we form the unlikeliest of alliances. These guys are actually pretty chill for forgiving me for murdering so many of their friends. What comes next is a pretty epic sequence where these cave-dwelling freaks clash with Trinity. And wait a second, is this the third game in a row where the final battle has both enemy factions fighting each other? I'm going to lose my mind, these developers love recycling. Props to the freaks killing the general though. Unfortunately, on the final stretch to get to Dominguez, traversal also broke for me. I know I mentioned plenty that I think the traversal is one of the highlights of this trilogy. However, I forgot to mention that it is inconsistent as fuck. Sometimes Lara will jump in a completely different direction. Sometimes the hook doesn't want to attach itself. Sometimes even though there is enough momentum to make the jump, I lose it mid-air and fall. Sometimes Lara doesn't want to grab the ledge that's in front of her. I encountered these problems all throughout the series, however this final game and this final section in particular pushed me to the edge. The traversal is fun, but unreliable as the game itself. And even though I wish I could have finished the game on a positive note, the final boss is just terrible. Dominguez turns into Dr. Phosphorus and the entire boss fight is summed up by dodging his attacks and unloading every gun into him, and you do this like 4 or 5 times. There is no skill involved, there is no fun involved, and I thought it couldn't get worse than the previous game. At least there I had the helicopter section. And like that, I kill Dominguez, then Lara gets a flashback with her family because now she has the power in her hands to make that memory a reality. However, she chooses to be selfless and decides to be the sacrifice that is required for stopping the apocalypse. And the legendary Lara Croft finally dies. Bro, of course she doesn't fucking die. Do you remember the rules? Do you remember the Jaguar incident? We don't even get an explanation about her living. It's a given at this point. Lara cannot die, period. She then hangs around Paititi while I'm sitting here with my brain scrambled writing this script until she finally decides to come back. Or maybe that's it, this version of Lara retired from video games and we only get to see her animated form from now on, as the Netflix show I mentioned at the beginning is a continuation of the trilogy. Okay, let me summarize Shadow of the Tomb Raider before I move to a general conclusion. This game kinda broke me, and in no way, shape or form am I blaming the game for that. That's 100% on me. The expectations I made were unrealistic looking back. I was blinded by the huge amount of potential that this game had to really be something special. However, it unfortunately went the other direction. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is really 1 step forward and 2 steps back. The combat let me down, the exploration let me down, the progression let me down. Some new cool shit is cool, but most of it is just pointless. I think they played everything too safe and the final product shows that, as there is barely any innovation, but that doesn't excuse the aspects that were done worse than the previous installments. Rise of the Tomb Raider reviewed well and they maybe thought they should not fix what's not broken, and that's a valid point of view. However, I kinda don't respect it, and they also made it worse. Let me jump to Uncharted to show you the difference. The third game I think is certainly worse than the second installment. However, Uncharted 3 tried different shit and it went weird with some of it. And even if most of it didn't stick, I can still respect the developers for trying new things, because this way there is a point for playing Uncharted 3. There is no point of playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider if you played Rise. It's lacking in almost all departments. Do I hate the game? No. Do I even think it's a bad game? Not really. It's fine. It's just very disappointing. It has good bones and a good foundation, they just didn't utilize them properly and decided to build paper-thin walls that couldn't handle the pressure. But I also think I did the same mistake because I put a lot of pressure on this franchise. Uncharted is one of my favorite gaming franchises ever and is very special to me. I think they're a classic, even if the first one will probably make you not want to play the rest. And Uncharted cemented itself as the Indiana Jones gaming franchise, even though Tomb Raider was technically first, so you can't replace it and you can't really compete with it. The best thing you can do is have a different approach at telling this type of adventure story. And that's what I hoped and expected from the Tomb Raider reboot. I hoped they would take this whole idea and genre in a completely different direction and do its own thing. That's why I keep mentioning the survival elements, because it could have had that, but they didn't go all the way. They took what worked, sprinkled some other things on the side so they don't end up being generic third-person shooters, and because of that, they didn't leave the good category to become great. And I think that's a shame because they also repeated this formula 3 times in a row, and by the end I got tired of it. I may be very critical of these games, but I still had a lot of fun. That's why I decided to put that in the thumbnail, because I don't want to be a hypocrite and shit on these games as if I hated my entire experience. But I also mentioned flawed, so I had to emphasize on that, and apparently I had a lot on my chest. Look, if these are your favorite games, don't let my take influence your perception, because if you like them that much, I'm happy for you. They just didn't hit for me. The first 2 did hit for me. I think they're pretty good. I recommend that you play them, but there's no benefit in playing the third one, I'm warning you. To be honest, the longer I write the script, the more I realize that what I actually want is to fill my Uncharted-sized hole in my soul with another classic. And I really hope Tomb Raider would be that classic. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So I guess I will remain here, waiting. But maybe after this video I also won't be alone and I have some company. Also, don't leave yet, I have to talk a bit more about backlogs. Hi there, outro KIPH here. That means I'm not that serious anymore and I'm also very vulnerable, so please don't be mean to me. I'm kidding, do what the fuck you want. As I mentioned at the beginning, I am really struggling at the moment trying to find a balance between creating videos and still enjoy gaming and finishing my backlog. I really put a lot of effort into my videos and I hope the quality speaks for itself, and I really enjoy doing it, but at the same time I know I missed a lot of games for which I want to make time and play, but I also don't want to neglect my YouTube channel. And in my endless pursuit of achieving perfect productivity, which I know doesn't exist, I decided to try and do both and create videos about my backlog. I don't want this to be the only thing I do on this channel, as I still want to play new shit or make videos about games I already completed that stuck with me, and there are also plenty of movies, TV shows and music I can talk about. As I said, I don't want to box myself into a category and do one type of video, even though I kinda love video essays at the moment. I'm just trying shit and see what sticks, and I'm low-key comfortable in this process because everything that comes out of my mouth comes from a place of love and passion, and I hope I don't have to mention that for you to feel it. That being said, if you're okay with me continuing this series from time to time when I feel like crossing names of my backlog, I would appreciate you letting me know in the comments or by liking and subscribing. If you do want me to continue, I also want to include you in this process, because as I'm emptying my closet of embarrassing information, I'm going to need guidance and support. So the next game/series will be chosen by you. That way you can make fun of me for not having played them yet, or we can play them at the same time and experience this together. That being said, your options are Metro, Horizon, and Halo. Yeah, you can start roasting me. Please vote for your favorite options if you dig this type of video, and until I continue my backlog chronicles, I will see you in the next video. Your presence has been priceless. Take care.